Good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon's Cabinet meeting. The first item on the agenda are the minutes of our meeting that were held on the 21st of March 2022. Is it your wish that I sign those as a true and correct record? Please. Thank you. The second item on the agenda are apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Swansborough, everybody else is present. And the third item, declarations of members of interest, if any. I have to share an interest in the main item on the agenda, item 7, the waste and recycling services and the fleet review, as I'm a director of Seesaw. And I took part in the vote at that then board meeting and voted at that. Are there any other declarations of interest? Tim?
Thank you, Chair. I'm the Director of Seesaw, but I'm presenting this report today for clarity as Director of the Service Delivery East Bar Council. So I'm presenting the report to you for decision today.
Thank you. When we reach that item, I will leave the room and I'll ask Steve to take over chairmanship of the meeting. Item 4, questions from members of the public. Any? Son?
Nothing like that, the Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, urgent items of business.
Also business.
And item 6, the right to address the meeting in the order of business. Which brings us to item 7. So with that, I'll take my leave of you and I'll hand over to Steve.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody. In the absence of Councillor, item 7 is waste and recycling services and details of that, please. So in the absence of Councillor Swansborough, I suppose, Tim, I'll hand over to you to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to introduce and seek approval for the replacement strategy for the waste and recycling fleet to circa 2035. This is against backdrop of new and emerging technologies, alternative fuels, energy vectors, aging vehicles, and our own East Fulham carbon neutral 2030 pledge. Section 1 picks up the introduction and picks up the waste service fleet provides vehicles for functions such as refuse, recycling, garden waste, trade and clinical waste collections, alongside street cleansing and bulky item collections. And the report considers the replacement strategy for all these vehicles. Section 1.2 is an interesting fact to note that the collections of street cleansing fleets accounts for approximately 30% of the council's carbon emission profile. Section 2 picks up the proposal. The proposal is a hybrid conventional diesel and renewable diesel for the refuse and recycling fleets in 23-24, electric vehicles for food waste collections in 2025, which you can see in Appendix 1, bridging the gap. What the strategy picks up is as new technologies and alternative fuel options become economically viable, alongside the provision of a depot infrastructure that can support them, the service will switch to ultra-low emission vehicles for the RCV fleet and street cleansing before 2030 to align with the Council's carbon neutral targets. Section 3 picks up the expected outcomes and makes reference to the adoption of the vehicle replacement strategy will support EPC's carbon neutral 2030 ambition using renewable diesel subject to due diligence to reduce carbon emissions in the interim before moving to a fully ultra-low emission fleet. Proposals for food waste collection fleets are aligned with indications within the Environment Act 2021 that weekly food waste collection will become mandatory for all local authorities from 2025. Secondary legislation detail implementation dates and requirements alongside the important provision of new burdens funding for extra collection is awaited. Section 6 picks up the business case, which I think is first in the cabinet. So, bilateral loan additional solutions are developing at a rapid pace. There are significant advantages in delaying decisions on new vehicle types, i.e. the electric or hydrogen fuel cell, until that market stabilises. EBC seeks to position itself to procure the best fit vehicles from 24-25, 28-29 as the market matures. Prices normalised and the most appropriate fuel or energy sources are in place locally. The report seeks to ensure adequate financial provision is made in capital allocations for waste service vehicles for the period 2023-2030 against a range of complex and interconnected circumstances. And therefore, beginning the report, the recommendations are that Cabinet approve the plans presented to upgrade the refuse and recycling collection vehicle fleet from April 23 with repurposed vehicles subject to full council approval. To use renewable diesel as an alternative to regular diesel from April 2023, subject to due diligence. To procure an electric vehicle fleet for food waste collections from 2025 and subject to government new burdens funding. To install charging infrastructure at Cortlands Road to support that electric fleet. And finally, to secure ultra-low emission vehicles for the RCV fleet and street cleansing by 2030 to crucially align with the Council's carbon neutral target. Again, subject to a further report to Cabinet and full Council supported case. As I said, the strategy is independent on the costings are independent too. We're happy to take any questions on myself or the wider team in the present state.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks to the wider team for being present today. We appreciate everything you're doing, obviously on the front line. I should remind council colleagues that if you want to discuss Appendix 2, that is an exclusion item, so do let them know beforehand because we'll have to move that on to YouTube and taken away and everything else. So at the moment we just focus on the report, which is the public report, and if there's any questions later then we can take that as part of the exam session. So I'll look around the room for questions and I think we would like to all see. Thank you.
Yeah, really just a comment about the report. You say the detail we'll cover off later, but in terms of the principles, firstly, very much in favour of the recommendations. The report sets out in detail how these decisions are going to make a huge contribution towards the Council's target of carbon neutrality by 2030. But there are a series of improvements all the way down the track, and I recognise the fact that technology is changing and improving all the time, and obviously it's in our best interest to make sure that as we acquire a new fleet, that we get the best possible advantage from that new technology. So I do agree with the transitional arrangements, but as Tim has said, from April 23, the renewable diesel seems to be a step on that way. Clearly, really welcome the electric vehicle fleet for food waste collections from 2025, obviously subject to the government's new burdens funding support. So that's several boxes that I know we would all want to support. For residents of Eastbourne will certainly welcome the opportunity to move into a big food waste operation. From the staff, obviously, associated benefits, obviously, with the new vehicles, the new fleet, and also would welcome the benefits around that and other potential infrastructure benefits for the staff as well. So, on a lot of fronts, I'd say this is really driving us in the right direction, and the report sets out the framework for that, which I'm very supportive of. So overall, I think this is really good news for our drive for carbon neutrality, but also really good news for the operation that we'll be able to deliver through this process, taking us through the rest of the 2020s, basically.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I was really obviously welcoming this report and the steps it's taken towards that carbon neutral goal that we all share and have. To me, and please as a blend, forgive me if I'm mistaken here, and please do correct me, but in my mind, what we're looking at doing in terms of bridging the gap is to largely use renewable or better fuel at this stage, whilst we see what the market does over the coming years, and then develop that as an option and keep our options open before that, because at the moment it's fluctuating so much that we don't know if it's like around there, if it's like VHS versus the other ones. You're not quite sure which one is going to be the preferred option, which one the market's going to favour until we're there. And I think we're getting there shortly. Am I correct there, Tim?
Yeah, that's a very good reading of it. There's also another part of the strategy which is really important, is that we're repurposing our existing fleets. So rather than recommending to Cabinet, we go out and buy new fleets, which have a 10-year life, and we then end up not being able to purchase hydrogen when it comes in, or electric when it comes in. We're repurposing our existing fleet, which is the most cost-effective method of doing it. So we've got our existing lorries being refurbished and new acts put on the collecting waste. That has the biggest impact on reducing the cost of what we need to do while we wait for those technologies to emerge.
And progressively, as I see it's part of the options in terms of electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, whilst there's encouraging progress being made, we're not quite there yet in terms of the need and capacity we would need. I see with electric vehicles, we're looking at about 90 miles, which for a town this size just wouldn't quite work. We then have to take the waste to the depot or whatever. So at the moment, the technology is not there yet for us to convert everything to electric. It's us being able to look at a better option for now, with a view of keeping options open later to transfer and convert as needed.
Thank you, absolutely, and especially so our existing assets. So we've got an existing fleet which we know we can repurpose, we know we can recondition, and we know we can make work for us for the next 5 years as those technologies emerge.
Any more, Margaret?
I was just going to say, I think this is a very prudent report, not just financially, but with all the new technology that's coming on board. And I think that you've worked very hard, Sean, on all to get this far with it and to make sure that we do the best for the council and the people we for, because we are getting there and it will be in place when we need it, but at the same time we're reusing, which is what recycling is all about. So thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Bannister. Any further comments, queries, questions? In which case, let's look at the recommendation once again. So the recommendations are to upgrade the refuse and recycling electric vehicles fleet from April 2023 for repurposed vehicles subject to approval, to use renewable diesel as an alternative to regular diesel from April 2023 subject to due diligence, to procure an electric vehicle fleet for food waste collections from 2025 and subject to government rebate funding support from depot upgrade, subject to a further report to Cabinet and full council supported by a business case, to install charging infrastructure at Portland Road Depot to support the electric vehicle fleet and to secure ultra-low emission vehicles for the RCV fleet in the street company by 2030 to allow the council's carbon neutral target, subject to a further report to Cabinet and full council supported by a business case. I have anybody in the room, please. Please say no. That is agreed. Fantastic. So at this point, I will, as a formality, ask that we exclude the public.
Through the chair, just if there is no comments by cabinet members to discuss or make reference to that, I think there's no requirement for you to go into executive session. So it's entirely down to cabinet members.
Okay. Would anybody like to discuss Appendix 4?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Okay, in that case, I thank everybody for their time this afternoon and for rescheduling your diaries, and thanks to the waste team and the team for coming in to support us, and thank you very much everybody. It's good to be good.